Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, where I, Anna Woolliscroft, chat with fellow writers and outdoor enthusiasts about how we can embrace creativity and curiosity to live a life full of adventure that doesn't feel like hard work. I delve into exploratory conversations about my two loves in life, writing and nature connection, as part of my mission to share the well-being benefits they both bring. It's wonderful to have you here today. On today's Writing with Purpose podcast, I'm chatting with Hilary Mines about her legacy Trundle, a community activity app. We also talk about looking back at the views behind you and how far you've come, an adult Lego. Hi Hilary, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I'm so excited to talk about everything to do with Trundle, and we'll come on to what Trundle is and how that came about shortly. But these things, I'm particularly looking forward to talking to you because you're such an outdoorsy person as well. And the two loves of mine are sort of outdoors and writing, and that's how this podcast came about. But most people I've spoken to so far are more into the writing side of things, not a bit of the outdoors, whereas you're full-on outdoorsy, I would say.
Yeah.
So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's really good of you to invite me on.
Oh no, you're more than welcome. So the purpose of this podcast really is just to talk to people who are like-minded, they love creativity, they love the outdoors, they may or may not have some element of writing. So Hilary, first of all, before we come to Trundle, do you want to sort of talk a little bit about what creativity is and what it means to you and how you stay creative as well? Because you've changed your creativity bits quite a bit, I think, over the...
I have. Yes, I think as a little person, even sort of the age of 6, 7, my creativity was picking up a pen and realising that I love to draw and art. And so I drew, and then I realised I love reading, and I like writing. But I write as I speak, which is too long-winded.
Conversational.
Yeah, very conversational, too much. So I never. I think I've always gone for the artistic side rather than the writing side. But I did win. I got a highly commended from the post office for creative writing when I think I was about 10 or 11.
Wow, excellent.
About somebody going off to the moon to live. And and I remember vividly, it was great writing about it. But my creativity has probably been more artistic. Yeah. Had a place at art college. That's a long story. I didn't go. And then, as with many people, 20s, 30s, 40s have all been about work. And I think I lost a lot of my creativity. And then it's a big plug here. I found Canva.
Oh,
when I found Canva, it was just a good excuse to go back to a digital type of creativity. And then Trundle in itself as a business, for all I don't get involved now in the creative side. In those early days, we were very, very hands-on of trying to do the social media and being involved in trying to write. But then we realised, that is a real art, and we've had quite a few different copywriters now who do that creative side of writing, because it's a very different thing for business, isn't it?
It is. And I think, you said you write how you speak, which is great because it shows your authenticity. And I always think whenever I get an email or anything from you, it's always I can tell that you're busy, but you say what needs to be said, but you do it in such an energetic way as well. It always makes me smile.
Yeah, they're not short though. I see people who write 2-sentence emails and think, I wish I could do that. But I can't. It's not me. And I have to accept that.
Person, I would say. They're a little bit more, maybe a bit more structured or to the point. And I don't mean that in a detrimental way for that person or for sort of you, and saying that you write a little bit more. I think we're just different, aren't we? And our personalities come out in various ways. And I think it's lovely to sort of hear you talk about, winning the commendation as a child, and then going through artistry, and then how that's changed over the years. And I think you bang on by saying in our 20s and 30s, and we kind of lose that that creativity. And I think it's that we kind of lose how we can tap into, we lose that childlike imagination, I would say.
That's a really good point, actually, Anna, because one thing that I did recently, I'm a great believer in having coaches or trying different things that you might not, I suppose you don't class as creative, but they are, aren't they? So I've done a mindfulness course and a Zen course, but I did a Lego for serious play. I don't know. So that's the business type of Lego. And we could be here all day, but that was just brilliant for going back to your sense of childlike state, where you could pick pieces of Lego up and make things. And the facilitator of that, Mark, was absolutely fantastic and amazing for problem solving. So to bring creativity into the business world as well was something that I'd not done before, and was really interesting and quite powerful. It was a great session.
Yeah, and problem solving is a form of creativity. Exactly. So I've got a question though, because that really interests me. Was it traditional Lego, i.e. mainly blocks, or was it modern Lego where you've got all these intricate little pieces that I just don't get?
It was a bit, unfortunately, it was a bit of both. So it's what I'd call traditional Lego, and then the character pieces, which for me, I didn't see as Lego, but quite obviously are now, like you say. I don't have any children, so my idea of Lego has been from my childhood with a brother, played with it. So I am Nanny McFeet aplenty, but they seem to not be Lego themed. So yeah, it was a bit of a mixture, but it was that whole, you only had a really short period of time to pick the pieces of Lego you wanted to create what you had in your head. And that was what became really interesting, because you almost found out things about your personality. So I picked the Minion, for instance, because of course they're fun, aren't they? And they giggle and they speak a stupid language. Well, here I am.
You're quite autistic with your food preparation as well.
I am, yes. So I part of the trundle story, so is relevant, but I sound quite an oddity, but I am absolutely the. If you put me back in Edwardian times, I'm the spinster of the parish. I've never been married. I don't have any kids. I live on my own now, have for a long time. And so you could imagine me with my tea tray, sat in the dark watching telly. But I don't. I take the view that even though I prep my food just for myself, my dad always taught me, you do it as if you were presenting for your dinner party. Don't do that every night of the week. But yeah, I fan my avocado if I'm having an avocado. And, it's just because again, but you don't realise these things, do you, Anna, till you do them? That it's just your creative side of your brain. And I have got a very creative side, so that's obviously one of the areas where it comes out as well. And I'd not thought about it really until we talked about it.
But I think it's as well, that's something that gives you pleasure, isn't it? It gives you happiness to prepare a meal in that way, and it doesn't matter. I think it's brilliant that you're doing it for yourself and not just doing it for for the benefit of other people, and you're taking that benefit as well. Because I think quite often we do a lot of things for other people because we put other people first, whereas that's solely for you, and that's absolutely brilliant. So you mentioned as well that it was either your mum or your dad sort of taught you to see the outdoors and walking in that from a different perspective. And listening to you talk as well, that's clear that that's coming to other aspects of life and seeing things from a different perspective, even if it's just presenting the food for yourself in the way that you do. So is that where part of the enjoyment of being outside came from? And if we use that to sort of then lead into how Trundle, your legacy, came about.
From a really early age, my mum and dad, walking was our thing. So weekends, I do remember thinking, oh god, we've got to go out walking again, because when you're 5 and 6 and you've got your little walking boots on, and there are photographs of us up the side of what a quite big hill, the Roman steps, anybody who knows that, in Wales. I'm stood at the top of that with a pair of Startlight shoes and ankle socks on. In those days, it was like we weren't always in the walking boots, but
no technical gear then.
No, it would certainly on some of those. But yeah, that's where that love of the outdoors came from. And I think the one thing that always sticks in my head, and I say this a lot because I think it's important, is especially if you're doing a loop walk, you're not doing a there and back, and you're and you're going uphill, is don't forget to turn around and look back, because you miss some of the most amazing views that are behind you that you don't see. And I think a lot of people, we're all guilty now of having our heads down in a phone, or just looking ahead and not looking around. And I can't describe the sense of euphoria that I can get. And I know there'll be so many people on your podcast, Anna, that will be nodding and going, yeah, I know what you mean. Wherever you walk, it doesn't have to be somewhere high. And I have now something called hip dysplasia, so I can't go off walking really, really high mountains. But, wherever you go, just the scenery does something for you. And it's an amazing feeling. And, and once you've got a decent pair of shoes, and in this day and age, they don't have to be a fortune, it's free. And it's mentally the most amazing thing. The research, I could have you here all day on the research about walking just for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I could be here again on the creative brain and what happens to it when it gets out for a walk. I think 3 miles an hour is the optimum for creativity.
3 miles an hour. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's 3 miles an hour.
Yeah.
In Trundle, we work in kilometres, so it's always a bit, we swap across. But yeah, so early age, and then it's carried on into my later life. And I'm a workaholic, so I know we're coming back to Trundle, but the other reason for Trundle is there's also a difficulty now where people, myself included, can sit at a desk for far too long.
Yeah.
The pressures of life. I mean, we don't get up and get out enough. And whether that's because for me it's pure enjoyment that I could sit there for 17 hours and not move and love it, or because and just life's so fast paced.
Yeah.
To be able to get out and just be outdoors is, I don't think you ever hear anybody who comes back from a walk and goes, I wish I'd not done that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Even if you don't want to go out and do it at the time.
Absolutely.
You can feel sort of the elevation from it.
Yeah.
I mean, how good it's been, not necessarily elevation as in walking, but yeah, totally. Even if it's out in the rain, I mean, I find being out in the rain really refreshing. And
my favorite walking
is in the rain, is it? Yeah. I always remember someone saying to me, and I think it was a personal trainer, but I can't think who it was, saying that actually the best thing that you can do is probably the thing that you don't want to do.
Actually, so I'm sure there's some good psychology in that. It's nice to look at, because it does. And even for me, who loves it, sometimes I not so much don't want to go out, but I can convince myself there's too much to do.
Yeah, and I'm exactly the same. I'm a workaholic as well, and sometimes I think, no, I'll just get this done and then I'll go out, and then I'll just get this done and then I go, and that's like a broken record. And before it's the end of the day and I've not moved,
you crawled into bed and you've not gone.
So you do. There is times, I think, when you have to force yourself to say, no, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to go out and do the walk. And I'm getting much better. I've sort of made a commitment to go, because I go running as well as walking, and I've made a commitment to go running 3 or 4 times a week, whereas it only used to just be 1 or 2, and I feel so much better for it. But a couple of things that you mentioned when you were talking about sort of looking behind you at the views when you go and walk, and I think that's kind of a nice metaphor for business and life, isn't it? That we do, when we're quite forward thinking and we enjoy what we do always strive to go forward. But it's important to look back and see where you've come from as well. And, outside going on a walk, it's appreciating the views, but also it's celebrating your wins and how far you've come as well in life and in business. And I think sometimes we can think that we haven't really come that far, but part of that is because we're not looking behind and celebrating how far we've come from. So looking at it from that different perspective is a super thing to do.
That's really interesting, because unbeknownst to you, I've had I think I said I always sort of have a coach or somebody that I talk to, and And I was talking to my coach this morning about exactly that it's so easy in this day and age as well to judge who you are and what you're doing and whether you think you're successful off the back of LinkedIn and all of social media and all the things you see. And it is really difficult sometimes. And that looking back at what you've done and what you've achieved is so important. And interestingly, and I've only just thought about this, but many, many years ago with a different coach, she made me sit down with a pen and paper and write down 100 things I was proud of.
Yeah.
So very, very first memory to that point there, which is probably about 7 or 8 years ago now. And when I started, I thought I'd never come up with 100, and it could be anything. It was down to the simplest thing. And she told me to keep that piece of paper and go back to it when I was having those doubting moments. And it's been one of the best things that I ever did. And I do add to it, and I haven't added to it for a while now. And my session this morning, where there has been self-doubt in me. Mm-hmm. Course of a couple of weeks where I've sort of allowed my brain to go into that, self-doubt on a couple of things that I know that they're not born out of my inability to do these things. They're born out of me putting other people on pedestals. Yeah. That whether they are that person or not, it doesn't matter because I'm not that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think sometimes your creative writing, Anna, which I don't do enough of, but I think that's why we met, because I have this a huge sense of how powerful when you put it down on paper, when you really get to the nub of what's going on, it isn't what's really going on in your head. And you can't do that when you're just, I call it, self-talk. But well, everybody calls it self-talk, but that brain chatter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be really destructive, but you put it down on paper and it becomes so much clearer. And having that 100 things, which I about 140 now.
Excellent, well done.
But it can be really powerful.
You're absolutely right. Getting things out of your head and onto paper, there's a way of just being then able to organise that in front of you without necessarily having the same sort of emotional attachment, but also without anything blocking you quite the same inside your head, because, with those limiting beliefs, they are blockers. So we can't get kind of through them or above them or below them or wherever we need to get to actually find out, okay, well, where's this coming from? So it's, great thing to do. Do you want to explain just a little bit about Trundle and how we'll include in the show notes links so that people can download the app? And because I've started it and I'm a real fan of it. I keep, my Trundle gets started before my Strava gets started.
Oh, bless you.
And I get started.
I hope Strava aren't listening.
Yeah, well, whatever. Well, they can call it
very different. Next. We are actually, interestingly, on that note, because I think it's sort of relevant, and we are not Strava and never strive to be Strava, I might. We're very different. But we do have quite a lot of lovely Strava people who use us very differently. They walk the dog with Trundle, where they use Strava very much for their athletic stats or their sports stats, and where Trundle came from is, so we're an activity app that gives back to charity. So we're about your everyday walks. So we are just for walkers. And that came about, as you can tell, from my love of walking. And I think always taking it for granted that you could go and do the big walks and come back and have that sense of achievement. And then life in my 40s took a different turn, and it's a longer story than we've got, but I ended up with a compressed spinal cord very quickly. So we don't know what caused it. And within 4 weeks-ish, I was having a discectomy to the cord had no fluid around it, in effect, in my neck. So I went from being totally able-bodied, taking everything for granted, to, okay, I can walk down the garden path and back, and then I could do half a kilometre, etc. And that sense of achievement had gone out of the window. And about 18 years prior to today, I'd got this idea of what I called sporty friends. So it was a completely different thing. I registered the domain for sportyfriends.co.uk, And I wanted to marry the motivation of sport, as I thought, with charity giving, because those not kids that I don't have that I talked about, I couldn't get to my deathbed, and everybody laughs when I say this, and go, you know what, you started some businesses, so is that success? Okay, to some people, yeah, that's success. And they, you know, I sold them, not for millions, but I did okay. But I couldn't get to my deathbed and think, is that it? Is that all I've got to show for it? There had to be something more.
That's a deeper purpose.
Yes. And so for me, that was about charity giving. But that idea sat in my head for a long, long time, because I knew it was going to be it was going to take quite a bit of investment, and B, it was going to take a lot of time. And so I sold my last business about 7 years ago. And again, not for millions. I'm not that person, but I did okay. And I decided that was where I was going to put my personal investment into what became Trundle, develop a membership club with an app at its heart that motivates differently to get out and do that walk that sometimes we, as we've just discussed, don't want to do, can't be bothered, we're in pain, we've got injuries, we've got a dog that we've got to take out in the rain, whatever it may be. And the simple point of Trundle is it's a community app. So the target is set as a community, and we walk for outdoor and mobility related charities. And there is a community Trundle. Let's say the one we're on at the moment is for Dogs for Autism. And it's 800 kilometers in 7 days. We all go on the app as and when we want in the day. And our stats are applied to that community Trundle. And we show you how far you've walked and how much that's helped us to raise. So we take your membership of Trundle is $3.99 a month if you're an individual, $3.33 if you're a business, because they can get rid of the VAT.
The VAT.
The good old VAT. And we take 30% of our income, not profit. This is our income. So we're a social business. We put that into our, what we call our giving circle. And then we have brand partners who also are supporting the app. They give you brand offers. So hopefully you'll get your $3.99 back, because you'll have your offers that come into the app. And instead of charging them an advertising fee, we put their donation into the pot. So that's how you're walking for your $3.99 a month. But we're raising at the moment between about £600 and £800 every month. And without you doing that walk, Anna, without you pressing go on the Trundle app and making sure that Trundleometer hits the top goal, we don't give. So there's a direct correlation to you going out and us doing the giving. And then hopefully you get the rewards of badges, offers, and just that feel good factor that you have done something with your walk. You've repurposed your walk for UK charity.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
And the more people that know about it, the more people that get it and become Trundlers. It's that power of one.
Is the price of a coffee.
Yeah, I'm really passionate. It's something that I feel very strongly. We're not a charity app. If you stop your direct debit for your favourite charity to become a Trundle member, I've not done my job right. We are an activity app. So we're there to repurpose or take away something you might be spending money on that maybe not be quite so healthy, or that you might be not using, and repurpose it into Trundle. And if we can do that as we grow and we become thousands of Trundlers, it still gives me shivers down my spine now what we do for charities. And they desperately need our help, because since COVID, you know, they don't have the chuck it in the bucket anymore. There is no random pound here and there from that Saturday afternoon bucket. And so for many charities, not just the small ones, the big ones as well, they desperately need extra help. And as we grow, this also gives us the opportunity to give a level of regular funding that charities means they pretty much know when it's coming in, because Tess, who's my co-founder in Trundle, we plot and plan 6 months in advance for our community Trundle, so we know which charities are going to be part of that and roughly how much we're going to be donating. All depends.
I think just the simple reframing of, have a coffee less or a cake less per month that's not good for you, Yes, it'll make you feel better, but it's not as good for you for your health. And then just get out and do some walking. And I think for me, part of it is, I love seeing the little phrases at the end, that I just walked so far. And what was I got something from, it was something in the Peak District the other day that, I didn't know that. So you are learning a few little bits of trivia.
And I think the other thing that I've not mentioned, and I should do because it's one of the most exciting parts, we won a grant award from the Innovate UK last year in November, and that enabled us. So we have an individual and a company trundle side of things, but whichever you are, we have now, you will have seen it, Anna, there's a CO2 toggle button as you're about to go. And that's to try and get people to think about leaving the car at home and trundling instead. And we worked with Chester Business University to work out those calculations. They weren't just us doing them on a bit of paper. And you can set what sort of size car you've got. We are, Trundle is a fun, cheerful app. Our stats are approximates. We are not here to go, this is exactly how much you've saved, but it's enough for you to know what you're doing. And then when we get to a certain level of saving collectively, again, everything is about people doing things collectively, then we've teamed up with a really lovely charity, which I don't think this is a bit of a scoop, this one, called Tree Council. And for the Tree Council, they plant orchards in schools, around hedgerows, and we will then donate every time we get to a 500 kilo CO2 saving. So everybody's got another really big incentive to leave the car at home. Just think about it. We always say it's a triple whammy, it's good for your health, better for charities, better for the environment.
Yeah, exactly.
Win-win-win.
It is a win-win-win, definitely. Well, we'll include all the details in the show notes as well. It's been absolutely fabulous to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks, Bobby.
Do you want to just very quickly end on how people can find you, if they want to get in touch with you, and any other takeaway that you want to sort of leave with this?
Yeah, I think the most important one is, if you want to find out about Trundle, our Trundle is spelt without the E. So we are a TRUNDL. And we're trundle.co.uk. That's the website. You'll find me on LinkedIn. So Hilary Mines is my LinkedIn title, I think. And we are on social media. We're trundle_go on Instagram and Facebook, and ordinary trundle on LinkedIn. It's a minefield, isn't it?
It's a bit of a minefield.
But yeah, feel free if anybody has got any questions, or we are a small privately funded company who need to spread the word, and so you inviting me on, Anna, is brilliant, and anybody else who wants to spread the word, great. And if you would like to give Trundle a try, because it's Anna, you can use our free code, which is love Trundle, all capitals, all one word, all pumped together. But you're going to put that on the show notes anyway, aren't you?
I'll include that on the show notes. That's very kind.
Make sure that you, if you're adding into the recommend button, that you put down for that you've heard about us through Anna and the Creative Writing Podcast.
Oh, thank you very much. That's super. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together, writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.